everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar. My name is Haley Holland, and I'm the Marketing Programs Manager here at ARI. Today, we're learning about the latest features in PartSmart 10 and how you can leverage those features to set your dealership up for success. Today, my co-host is Joe Pierkowski, the Product Manager for PartSmart, and he will be going in depth on brand new features and showing you a live demo of this exciting new technology. But before we dive in, I just want to point out the control panel that you should be able to see there on the right side of your screen. You can minimize or expand this at any time by clicking on the orange arrow button in the corner. Alrighty, dealers, before I turn the phone over to Joe, we have a quick question for you. So just a moment. You'll see a poll pop up on your screen. If you please answer that, we'd really appreciate it. All right, give you guys just another second. Awesome. Thank you so much, dealers, for your answers. Well, welcome back if you've joined us before. For those who haven't joined us in the past, welcome. Alrighty, and then if you are an existing PartSmart customer and you haven't activated PartSmart 10, I saw a few of you out there, you can click on the link in the chat to learn how to do that. Without further ado, Joe, please take it away.
All right, thanks, Haley. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Before I kick things off, I just want to take a little time to help you get to know me. So my name is Joe Pierkowski, and I am the product manager for the new version of PartSmart. So I'm the son of a gearhead, and I spent most of my childhood working on go-karts and cars, and I also worked in landscaping throughout high school and college. So I have a strong foundation of what it's like to be your customer and use the products you guys sell and repair every day. And for those of you in power sports, I spend my weekends with my family tearing up the Northwoods of Wisconsin on ATVs. So I have been with ARI for 6 years now, and I've spent the last 5 years working with OEMs and dealers to see how PartSmart was getting used and where we needed to improve. I spoke to people just like you to find out what you go through on a daily basis so we could come up with a new version of PartSmart that will make finding the right part easier and faster than it is today. All right, let's get started. So what we'll be covering today is some new features that are surrounding pricing features. Then we also have some new user interface enhancement to make it easier to find the right part that you're looking for. And then the follow up on the new features with the Picklist Export features for a CSV file. And then we're going to be going back and touching on some topics that are very near and dear to your hearts, managing your account and team inside PartSmart, configuring your locations, and then also connecting to your DMS. So make sure you stay tuned till the end of the webinar because we are going to be doing a live demo of every feature that we share inside of the PowerPoint today. And then we'll also be answering your questions at the end during our Q&A session. Now let's walk through the latest features in PartSmart 10. We have 2 new pricing features if you are not connected to a DMS that you can take advantage of. First one is a list price multiplier. So now you can configure a list price multiplier, which will give you better control of pricing by catalog when you're not using a DMS. When that's applied, the MSRP value will be multiplied by the list price multiplier and be reflected as the price in PartSmart. So what's good to know here, that you can set a price list multiplier for each catalog inside of PartSmart. Next pricing feature is the ability to import and view MSRP, cost, and price. So now you can import a price file that will control the MSRP, cost, and price values when you are not connected to a DMS. It's 4 easy steps. Just go into the advanced settings into the pricing section, download a template file, and add your parts pricing. Then select the catalog, currency, and dealership location for the parts pricing that you want to import into, and click on the Begin button to import your file. You can view the MSRP, cost, and price in PartSmart once you've done that. What's good to know here is you can add parts pricing by catalog, currency, and location. We have 3 new user interface enhancements to show you today. First one is IPL diagram thumbnails. Now I do want to point out this is something that was highly requested from our user and dealer base. So this is something to show you like we are listening and we are trying to make the improvements that you are requesting. So with an IPL diagram thumbnail, it's now quicker and easier to find the diagram and part that you need. You can toggle the display of thumbnails on the model detail panel. Tidbit of information that you want to know here is that you can set this as your preference to display the thumbnails by default, and that will impact your model detail panel and if you go through the product line and get down to the diagram level. Next user interface enhancement that I want to talk about is IPL paging arrows. Again, something very highly requested from our dealer network. The paging arrows have been added to the diagrams panel, and this is going to make it easier to navigate to the next diagram without having to open a new tab. Something I want to point out that's good to know here is the IPL paging arrows are only available when one diagram is present. The last UI enhancement that we have to show you today is notification badges. So notification badges already exist in PartSmart, but there are a few sections such as the notes and related model section that did not have them. So these badges will now show up for the content when there is content for the notes and related models section. What's good to know here is these notification badges will help save you time in locating additional information. So if you see a 0 on a section, then you know there's no content there and you don't have to open it up to find out. And now our new CSV Picklist Export feature. You can now export your Picklist content out to a CSV file. Select the columns you'd like to export and the column header names, and this can be used to import the file into an OEM or distributor's ordering system, assuming they can take a CSV file to import into. What's good to know here is this Picklist export feature will make it easier to complete an order in an OEM's ordering system. When we started the redesign process of PartSmart, it was important to us to talk to customers. So we asked you, how can we make it easier for you to set up and manage PartSmart? What'd you guys have to say? PartSmart setup should be quick and easy. It's hard to set up multiple computers and locations. You'd like to have control over settings for your team members. You need to manage employees at different locations, and DMS configurations are too cumbersome. So meet the admin dashboard. Manage your team and PartSmart settings from one convenient location, our admin dashboard. You can, what you can do in PartSmart 10 is manage user accounts for your team members. You can assign users to your dealer locations. You can configure DMS settings. You can also access your PartSmart CD subscription information. So what's good to know here is that every admin account will have, or every PartSmart 10 account will have an admin account associated to it. Here's how you can manage your team. By adding team members. So add and invite your team members to log into PartSmart 10. Just go to add user, enter their first name and last name, and provide an email address. Once that's done and you hit add user, users are going to receive a welcome email with a link to set their account password. So what's good to know here, your specific account settings will apply to each user, and that users can update their profile and user settings only. What if you don't have a business email address for each of your team members? You can set up an account with a free email service such as Gmail, Outlook, or Yahoo Mail. Let's talk about managing users now. You can find existing users by typing their email address in the user search box. You can also delete user accounts. So for example, if someone leaves your dealerships or retires and you want to reuse that account for someone else, you can delete that person and then add in a new employee. Also removing team members from locations. So let's say you have a parts manager that is spending part of their time at a new dealership you just acquired. You could give them access to both those locations, but then once that new location is up and running under everything that you guys do, you can then remove that location from the parts manager without creating a new account. And then assigning users. So you can sign and switch team members for specific dealer locations inside of the admin dashboard. Here's how to configure your locations. You can view and manage your dealer locations, find your subscribed dealer locations in PartSmart, change the display name for your locations, and then location configurations consist of pricing, catalogs, and DMS. So you can control pricing information for each location. Your catalogs, you'll be able to view which catalogs are available for each location. And then you'll also be able to configure your DMS settings. So what's good to know here is you can subscribe to additional dealer locations to leverage this functionality in your business. Here's how to connect to your dealer management system. Setup is as easy as 1, 2, 3. It's quick and easy one-time setup of our DMS agent to integrate with your DMS. Location configuration. Step 1, select your DMS provider. Step 2, set your DMS command line value, which is the same command line value that you're using in PartSmart 8. And then step 3, download and install the DMS agent. What's good to know here is the DMS agent will share the same configuration from your account on every computer you install it on. Let's talk about additional settings with your DMS configuration. You have the ability to go in and enable color-coded hotspots on your diagrams, and that'll give you inventory at a glance. And then also override the system catalog code. So let's say for MTD, the catalog code is MTD, but your DMS requires a different catalog code. Just come into advanced settings here in the catalog code override section, enter the catalog code that you need to use, and you'll be off and running. Multiple locations. So you can configure and connect to a different DMS at each of your locations if you need to. And what's good to know here is that ARI is working directly with DMS providers to test the new PartSmart integration and enable the best experience for you. Now I will take you on a tour of PartSmart to show you the new features and wrap up with a walkthrough of managing your dealership in PartSmart's admin settings. So coming up shortly, the next generation of parts lookup, PartSmart 10.
Great, thanks, Joe. But before you jump into that demonstration, I do have a quick request for our listeners. If you can please drop into the question section which dealer management system your dealership is currently using. If your dealership isn't using one, not a problem. We want to make sure that your DMS is supported through PartSmart. And if you're wondering where to drop in that answer, or if you have a question for Joe, you can open your control panel by clicking on the orange arrow button and maximizing the question section. Okay, Joe, we're ready for your demo.
All right, thanks, Haley. The first thing I want to cover in our demo is going over the new pricing features. So I'm going to start with the list price multiplier. So list price multiplier is going to be used by dealers that don't have a DMS connection, but they need a way to manage or change their pricing. So list price multiplier, to access that setting, we're going to go into advanced settings. We select the location that we want to apply the list price multiplier for. I'm going to select our main location. Then we scroll down to the catalog options section. And then what we want to do here is click on the drop down and select the catalog that we want to do a list price multiplier for. And I'm going to enter a value of 1.25. So that's going to multiply whatever my MSRP is times 1.25, and that will be my new price value. So then we go down and save changes. We close, just do a refresh. And then if I go into my part detail panel, we can see here that the MSRP was 28.51, and it took that value times 1.25 to come up with our new price of 35.64. So this multiplier, the 1.25, is going to apply to all parts in the Cub Cadet catalog in that first location. So it shows you how you have control by catalog, by location for your pricing. Like I said, this only applies when you are not connected to a DMS. If you are connected to a DMS, the DMS value will override anything that you have listed for the list price multiplier. Now that we've covered the list price multiplier, I want to talk about importing the MSRP cost and price. Again, to do that, we're going to go into our advanced settings. We're going to click on our pricing tab this time. We're going to download a template. Open that up. And then all you need to do is, I'm going to type it in, but you can copy and paste, like if you have a list from a distributor or an OEM of part numbers with pricing, you can do that. Let me make sure that I have that right part number. Whoops. 4A, 5034A. Then you put in a pipe, you put in what you want for your cost, your MSRP, then another pipe, and then your price, and then you save. And then all you need to do here is, let me get this out of the way. Select the catalog you want to import it for. So I'm going to select Cub Cadet. Then you select the currency. So you can select any of the supported currencies and then select which location you want it for. Then you choose your file that you just saved. Hit open and then begin. And it's just letting you know that it's going to change the pricing and making sure you want to continue. We do. So if we just wait a few seconds for the process to complete. So now we're completed. I can close out. Because we are making changes to the pricing, we're just going to do a quick refresh. And I'm going to search for the part number that I just imported. We go there. And as you can see, the pricing that we imported, $1 for cost, $5 for MSRP, and $4.50 for price, now display inside of PartSmart. So this was just another way that if you are not able to use a DMS connection, on how you can have control over pricing for your parts inside of PartSmart. Now that we've covered the pricing new features, I want to hop into the user interface features that we discussed in the PowerPoint. And to do that, I'm going to start out on the model detail panel. First thing I'm going to talk about is the notification badges on the notes and related models. If you look down here on the notes, you can see there's a 0, so that's telling me that if I expand that, there is nothing there. So that's what that 0 is really helping you do, is identify that there is no content there. So if you were looking for notes, there's nothing there to even expand it out to find. But if we look on related models, there's 20 related models. So we can see that there's a lot of information here that you may want. So at least you know there's content here before you start opening it. So that's the first feature that we wanted to show you. The second one I want to show you is the IPL, actually let's go back. I want to show you the IPL diagram thumbnails. So what we got feedback from the dealer network is that here on the model detail panel, where it has all the information available in one location, what they really wanted to be able to do, instead of just seeing the list of diagrams, was also be able to see the thumbnails so that they could visually identify the right diagram that they're looking for. So if I click on the image or the thumbnail icon, it'll change everything over to thumbnails. And then if I click on the list, it'll change it back. So once I've clicked on that, I can scroll through and I can look to visually identify the right diagram that I'm looking for. And I'm going to click on the deck icon. But before I do want to point out, or just remind you, that in our good to know tip from the PowerPoint slide, we called out that if you want it to display the thumbnails every time you log into or open up a model detail panel, you can take care of that in your user settings. So I select my diagram, and that is going to take us over to the last user interface enhancement that I want to show you today. And that is, again, something that was heavily requested by our dealer network, was to bring in the paging arrows on the diagrams. So if I click on that, it'll just allow me to go through all of the diagrams on this model one by one. So I can have a nice big view of what they are. And I can also go back by clicking on the back arrow. I do want to point out that this is only available when there is one diagram present. As soon as I add in a second diagram, that functionality goes away. But if I close out the diagram and go back down to 1, it pops back in and is available. So that's everything I wanted to cover from the user interface. The last enhancement feature that I wanted to cover today is the Picklist Export. So we have a feature now in PartSmart that allows you to export your pick list out to a CSV file. Like I said, there are some distributors and OEMs that allow you to import an order through a CSV file. And so we're trying to make that easier by giving you file parameters. So in your locations tab, you open up the location container that you want to modify, and we're giving you the ability to enable or disable any of the parameter names that we have. And then if their system requires a specific name, you also have the ability to override that name. So here I'm going to do QTY for quantity, and I'm just going to have part number and quantity. Then I go down, hit save changes, and I close, and then we go over to our pick list. And here, CSV export, I click on CSV. CSV file pops down in my tray. I open that up. And let's bring this over so you guys can see it. So if we see now, I have two columns, part number and quantity, and it's QTY instead of quantity spelled out, and it has the part numbers and the quantities there. So then you'd be able to take this file and submit it over to your OEM or distributor to process your order. That covers everything that I wanted to on the new features this time. Now I want to go back and touch base on, from an admin's perspective, how can I set up my account and set up my locations and my DMS. So I'm just going to walk through the advanced settings at this point in time. So we go over to our user setting icon, click on advanced settings, and I'm going to start out in users. So as we mentioned before, just type in a first name, a last name, test, and then an email address. And then you pick which location. So if this is someone who's just going to be working at the main location, that's all I have to select. Or if they're going to be working in both locations, I can select that here. Then I can click on add user. And then you can see this test user that I added is now showing up here. I can go in and modify that test user. Like let's say I only want them in the main location now. I uncheck the second location and hit update user. And it just lets you know that it's going to remove all their data. So like any pick list they've created in that location and saved will get removed. I hit OK. So that's how you can modify a user. But let's say this test user has worked with me for a long time and now they're retiring and I don't need them anymore. I can just come over to the delete icon, and then that will remove them from my user list, and it'll change the quantity of users that I have available to me now. So that's everything I wanted to cover on the users. So now let's move into the locations. And here we'll talk about location settings setup and then also get into the DMS integration. So on the location, I opened up my main location container. I can see my address information here. I have the ability to change the display name, and what that is this what shows up right here in this container. So if you want to rename a location, make it easier to find, this location display names where you'd want to do it. Then here in the part information, you have the ability to, like let's say for a location you didn't want people to see the reorder quantity because they don't reorder parts. You can uncheck this, and then as a user, they will only see the MSRP cost, price, bin, and show on hand quantity. Then if we go down a little more, we're going to see the available catalog section. So this is showing you which catalogs are available in this location. So if you do notice that there is a problem and something doesn't look right, please reach out to ARI. Please reach out to our tech support team and they can help you resolve that issue if there is one. And we touched on it a little bit earlier, the catalog options. If you click on a catalog, you will be able to see any pricing groups that are available for that catalog and select that. You may decide that you don't want to display pricing, so you could do none there, or you could just select the pricing category that you want. And this is where, again, the list price multiplier lives. And I just want to reiterate that the list price multiplier only applies when you do not have a DMS integration set up. And then we move on to our CSV file parameters export section. So this is what we just covered, where here you have the ability to dictate what columns will display in that file when it's exported, and then also the ability to override the parameter names if you need to for another system to be able to take that CSV file. And now the big one here, the DMS integration section. So to set up your DMS integration, you're going to want to check the DMS enabled checkbox. You're going to want to download the DMS agent, select which DMS provider you have, and if you don't see yours in the list, please come down to the bottom, select Other, and then type in the name of the DMS that you are using. And then here is where you take your DMS command line, the same one that you're using in PartSmart 8 today, and you'd paste that string in here. And then if you remember from the PowerPoint, we talked about enabling the color-coded hotspots. So if it's unchecked, it won't display color-coded hotspots in the diagrams, but if it is checked, then it will. And then the catalog code override section, where this will display the catalogs that you have available in the location, what their catalog codes are, and then if your DMS requires a different catalog code, you would just type that catalog code in here, and that will override the default catalog code. Once you've gone through and made all your changes, click Save. And that is everything that goes through with the location, setting up your location and your DMS. Now I'm going to hop over to the pricing tab. We already demoed this functionality where we clicked on the template to enter our pricing information, but I just want to reiterate how quick and easy it is to import new pricing in. So we select our catalog that we want to import the pricing to, select the currency of the price file, select which location, choose our file. It'll pop up, and then you just select the one there, and then you'd hit begin, and that would import the price file again. The last section I'm going to cover in the demo is the PartSmart CD tab, and this is going to show you all of the catalog subscriptions that you have available. So if you are new and you just have PartSmart 10, you won't see any information here, but if you have transitioned from PartSmart 8 to PartSmart 10, then you will see the list of all your catalogs here. You'll have a link in this file download column to download the catalog. Then you'll also have the license key, and all you have to do is click on this icon and it'll copy it to your clipboard, and then you can paste it into PartSmart 8 to activate it, and then you'll see the date in which your catalog is expiring. So that wraps up everything for me on the demo.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Joe, for that demonstration of the new admin dashboard and all the fantastic updates we've been working on. Now that we've seen PartSmart in action, can you tell us how a dealer can activate their PartSmart 10 account?
Sure. So thanks, Haley. If you're an existing PartSmart customer, it's really easy to activate your PartSmart 10 account. It only takes a few simple steps, so let me walk you through it. So go to the URL that's listed here, click on the Set Password button. Then step 3 is entering your dealership's ARI email address. Then click on the Request Reset button and follow the prompts to complete the password setup process. So if you don't know your dealership's ARI email address, just reach out to our tech support team at techsupport@arinet.com with your contact information and location, and those guys will help you out. Did you know that it's easy to activate your PartSmart 10 account and invite your team members, that there's no more software downloads or installs, and that you're always up to date? And also, existing customers can use PartSmart 10 alongside PartSmart CD so you can learn the new application without interrupting your day-to-day business. Activate your account today at the URL listed here. So here are the benefits of activating your PartSmart 10 account. You gain immediate access to all of the new PartSmart features. You'll get help with connecting your DMS with PartSmart. Just reach out to us if you need it. You'll get a jump on your competition, and you'll be able to start using the next generation of PartSmart to see how you can improve your part sales today. So to activate your account, click on the URL link in the chat during this meeting or take a screenshot of the URL on screen. I'm just going to pause a second so anyone who wants to take a screenshot, they can. So if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. Just make sure to email us at techsupport@arinet.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joe. Well, dealers, that takes us to the end of the presentation. The new PartSmart, in my humble opinion, really is the next generation game changer. Loving what we're doing, what we've got going on. At this time, we have another question for you, dealers. So please take a moment. You'll see that poll question pop up on your screen. If you can let us know, what would you like to learn about in our next webinars? Give it just a moment. There it goes. All right, I'll give you guys just a few more seconds to answer. Want to give you as much opportunity to let us know what you would like to learn later on. Okay, great, folks. It looks like a lot of you are looking forward to hearing tips and tricks. Awesome, thank you for that. So at this time, like we mentioned earlier in the webinar, we are taking some questions. So if you need to, and you'd like to ask a question, go ahead and pop that control panel open by clicking on the orange arrow button in the right-hand side of your screen. And we'll start with the first question. Joe, I have a dealer, Miss Lisa. She is asking, can we set up PartSmart so that the thumbnails display all of the time?
Absolutely. All you have to do is just go into the user settings and select the thumbnail option in the diagram view preference section to be able to do that.
Great. All right, let's grab another question. Okay, Mike, another dealer for you, is asking, where do we configure the list price multiplier again? Can you tell us that, Joe?
Sure. So to configure the list price multiplier value, all you have to do is select a catalog in the catalog options dropdown in any location container, which is located in the locations panel in advanced settings.
Awesome. Great question, dealer. Okay, Joe, I have another one coming in from gal Rachel. She is asking, is there an upcharge for connecting your PartSmart to our DMS?
So ARI does not charge a fee for integrating with your DMS, but we do recommend that you reach out to your DMS to make sure that they don't have any fees associated to providing the integration.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to grab a couple more questions as they come in. Gary's asking, Joe, I have a manager that visits multiple locations. What does he access, or how does he access the catalogs he needs for the location he is at?
That's a great question. I hear that all the time from multi-location dealers. So if a user has multiple locations assigned to them, and remember that can only be done by the account admin, all they have to do is just go into select a location section of my settings panel, and then they can select the location they want to view, and this is located in the user settings.
Wonderful. Great questions, dealers. Keep them coming. Okay, I just got another one. Jason's asking, are you able to add new parts using the price file import?
Good question, Jason. So the price file import functionality allows you to modify or add pricing for a part that already exists in the catalog. So this is going to apply to the cost, MSRP, and price value. It does not support adding new parts to your catalog, though.
Okay, great. This is a great question another question about the list price multiplier. Todd's asking, can I use a list price multiplier along with our other business system?
Good question, Todd. So the list price multiplier, again, is designed to help dealers that don't have a business system integrated with PartSmart. So if you do have a business system integration set up, the list price multiplier will not adjust the price value.
Great. And Joe, I just received a question from a dealer. They're asking if this is going to be recorded. The answer is yes, we are recording this. So you don't need to worry about jotting down all these answers. If you have a question, keep sending them in, but we are recording and we'll share the recording after the webinar. Okay, so we've got another question. Susan's asking, Joe, our employees don't have their own emails. How do we create accounts for them?
It's a really good question. So each team member does need to have their own email address. And if you don't have company email addresses for each employee, you or the employee could go out and set up an email account through any of the free email services out there, like Gmail or Yahoo.
Great question. I'm sure that's helpful for a lot of folks out there. Okay, I've got a couple more for you. This dealer, Eric, is asking which DMS systems, which dealer management systems are supported. Got it.
Sure. So as I mentioned in the PowerPoint, ARI is working with many of the DMS vendors to test the new PartSmart integration, but just please reach out to us to find out if your DMS is supported. And if it's not, we can work with you to validate your DMS integration. It's a really simple process. It takes 30 minutes or less of your time, and our guys will do all of the heavy lifting. You don't even need to be engaged with us the whole time, but we pretty much need you there at the beginning and end to get things started and wrapped up.
Great. Okay. Let's see. I see two more questions. How do we add more dealer locations? This is Steve asking this, Joe.
Okay. All right. So if you wanted to add more locations to PartSmart, just reach out to your dealer sales rep to add any additional locations that you need.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to grab one last question. Dave is asking, what will happen to my PartSmart 8 subscription if we activate this new PartSmart?
Sure, that's a great question. I get that one a lot. So when you activate your PartSmart 10 account, you won't lose access to PartSmart 8. You can continue to use both versions, and PartSmart 8 will still be there, remember, as your offline backup.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Joe. Dealers, that brings us to the end. If you are interested in more information about activating your PartSmart 10 account, you can click on the link in the chat, or you can shoot us an email at techsupport@arinet.com. If we didn't get to your question, please don't worry. We will be following up with you individually after the webinar. Before we go, we do have one final question for you. Should be on your screen. Go ahead and answer that for us. We really want to know if this webinar was useful for you. Your feedback means the world to us, so we know how to do better next time, or you found it useful. Great. Looks like a lot of you are voting. We'll give you just a few seconds left so you can get back to your day. Fantastic. Well, dealers, thanks so much for the feedback. Looks like a lot of you found it helpful. That warms our hearts, and we look forward to connecting with you further webinars. With that said, thank you so much for attending today. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. We definitely hope that you walked away with some new information and that you guys are excited, as much as we are, for the new PartSmart 10 platform. Joe, as always, thanks so much for being here and sharing the new updates with us. Dealers, have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Joe. Take care.